July 1st, 1965, Valençol, France. Lavender farmer Maurice Masse was just beginning his day at around 5:45 a.m. Suddenly, he heard a noise that spurred him to look at his lavender field, which now contained an egg-shaped craft sitting on thin legs. Once he got closer, he noticed that there were two beings, less than 4 feet tall, wearing greenish-gray suits. They had heads 3 times the size of a human skull and had small slits for mouths. Once the beings noticed that he was approaching them, one brandished a tube-like object and pointed it at Masse, paralyzing him. They stood staring at him for about a minute, while he couldn't move. He said they, quote, conveyed more friendly curiosity than hostility, despite rendering him unable to move. The two beings communicated with each other using a throaty gargling sound and picked vegetation. The beings then entered their craft and closed the door, which Masse described as closing like, quote, the front part of a cabinet. Masse could see the beings through what he describes as a cockpit window as the craft lifted off. Once it got 60 yards away, Masse says that it just vanished. Masse sat paralyzed in the field for about 20 minutes, but soon regained mobility in his body. He found holes in the soil after inspecting the ground where the craft had been resting. Masse claimed that for years after the encounter, healthy plants would not grow, and if not tended to, would grow weeds. The soil allegedly hardened like concrete and contained more calcium than the surrounding area. For several weeks after the encounter, Masse recalled having extreme drowsiness. His wife even said that he had received some sort of communication from the beings, and that he thought about them daily. Could this have been a telepathic communication? He considered the location where the UFO had landed sacred, and wanted to keep it owned by his family forever. Masse said he found holes in the ground where the craft had landed, and that plants wouldn't grow there. I couldn't find any sources that explain who investigated the case, but it seems like someone other than Masse did search the area. A laboratory study of the affected soil and plants showed that something strange had happened. A skeptic could claim that this event was made up by Mr. Masse. There was no witness to the event other than him. However, I think it would be unwise to say nothing happened that night. Something occurred to enrich the soil with high amounts of calcium, and as Masse stated, there were holes in the ground as well as dying plants. One could say that he poked holes in the ground and somehow poisoned his plants, but ultimately it comes down to why. Why would a farmer in a small village in 1965 make up a UFO story? Was he bored? It seems like he didn't do it for attention. To my knowledge, he wasn't a guest on talk shows and didn't seem to flaunt his experience. It truly does seem like he had witnessed a profound event, even spiritual. Why go to all this trouble to make something up, taking time away from farming? It just doesn't make sense that he would make something like this up, and if he did, then it would be for an extremely strange reason. This case relies on not only witness testimony, which is sometimes thought of as the most uncredible source of information, but also physical evidence taken from the site of the encounter. The witness had no foreseeable reason to lie, unless for unknown personal reasons. There may not be video or other witnesses, but this case is interesting in that it was not only an alleged UFO encounter, but also an ET encounter. If a human being met another who is not of this world, strange things can happen, and it's intriguing what their motive would be for visiting Earth and landing in a lavender field, if it even happened. Whatever it was that Masse encountered that morning, it seems that he was genuine in his testimony, and that he actually did have this experience which had lasting effects on him. No one can know for sure if this actually happened, except for Masse. But it is a fascinating case that fits in the strange jigsaw puzzle that is the UFO phenomenon. Thanks for watching.